Doctor, are you living the dream or just dreaming of living? It is my honor to announce the PDA 20th Anniversary Special Conference this September 12th to the 14th in Frisco, Texas, the nation's leading course on dental practice growth. If you feel isolated as a leader who is frustrated that your schedule is unproductive, maybe your team is disjointed, or your systems are inefficient, this is the conference for you. The PDA 20th Anniversary Conference has all new features, including keynote speaker Emmitt Smith, who is a Pro Football Hall of Fame running back and entrepreneur. You can choose your own educational track to customize your learning experience. And when you register before July 1st, you will receive a 90-minute free meeting session that can help you boost and increase your productivity before you even attend the conference. Go to www.productivedentist.com and click the pop-up, or select Productive Dentist Academy Conference under the Dental CE and Events tab. That's www.productivedentist.com. Seating is limited. Register today, and we look forward to helping you make your dreams become reality.
It comes down to communication with your patients, building trust, caring about your patients, and therefore ultimately building a relationship.
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Bruce B. Baird, and you're listening to the Productive Dentist Podcast. In this podcast, I will give you everything that I've learned over the last 40 years in dentistry, working with thousands of dentists. I'll tell you, it's not that my way is the only way, it's just one that has worked extremely well for me, and I'd love to share that with you, so you too can enjoy the choices and lifestyle that productivity allows. More time for things you love, increased pay, better team relationships, and lowered stress. Let's get into it with this week's episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.
Hi, this is Dr. Bruce Baird with the Productive Dentist Podcast, and in today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about all the trouble ahead. You know, every time you pick up the newspaper, if people still do that, or go online or go look at any of the magazines, everybody's talking about, the market correction and how things are, the future is looking bleak, and, it can drag you down. I mean, it literally can cause you to be depressed. And what I want you to remember is what other people think and what other people predict. Yeah, you want to be on top of it. You want to be thinking ahead and saying, okay, are we having a commercial real estate bubble? Yeah, probably. And people aren't going to work anymore. They're staying at home and doing it from home. So is there going to be changes? Are there going to be things happening? Yes. Credit card balances are at the highest ever. Credit card defaults are at the highest ever. The market keeps growing. So everybody now, the fear factor is actually starting to rise as people are expecting to see a large change in the economy. We've got the presidential election coming up. There's just so many things happening right now. And the reason I want to bring it up is, don't let it affect your business. All of that is peripheral BS. All of that is chatter in the marketplace. Now, if all of your patients are coming from commercial real estate, well then, okay, you might think differently. But what I'm saying is, and I've had docs say, it doesn't matter when it is. July is a bad month. December's a bad month. There's no such thing as a bad month. Not in your business. If it's a bad month, then do things different. Usually what I found is it's a loss of focus. It's, we're not focusing anymore. A bad time for many practices is July, because you go on vacation and the kids are out of school and you want to go do things with them. And so you lose focus on your business. Same thing happens in December. It's the holidays. December and July were always some of the busiest months for us ever, and January. And what I'm saying is, don't listen to the chatter. Don't listen to the noise. When it comes down to your business, think of it this way. And this really doesn't matter if you're an associate or an owner doctor or anything else. It comes down to communication with your patients, building trust, caring about your patients, and therefore ultimately building a relationship. I've told you guys 100 times that my only two goals in my practice were to take great care of the patient, and number two was to reach whatever goals I set. So when the chatter starts getting loud from outside, and, local economies can have issues, all of these things that happen, don't focus on that. You can't do anything about it anyway. I mean, you just can't. So what do I do then? It was one of the most interesting things during COVID is it was the first time in history, in my opinion, of dentistry that you literally couldn't go to work and everybody had to focus on their business. And they started realizing, oh man, I need to do this, that, the other. I've got to, my HIPAA compliance stuff isn't there. My training, all the things that they had to worry about that they hadn't been doing on a regular basis, because now they had time to actually work on their own business. So as the chatter gets louder around you, that's when my focus becomes internal. It becomes, how are we taking care of the patients? Are we truly getting in a relationship with these patients? Do I know who my new patients were? I've said that a bunch of times. Do I know who my new patients were this week? I mean, do I really know who they were? Did I actually spend time getting to know them? Did I actually match and mirror with them and link and come up with at least 3 links to a chain that can't be broken? And when I do that, when I focus on things that I have control over, guess what happens? First of all, my stress goes down because I feel more prepared. But what also happens is productivity goes up. You're gonna find that in many ways, the harder the economy is, the worse it gets, the more focused you're going to become, and your practice is going to continue to grow. I know Productive Dentist Academy, we had a bunch of our clients that actually grew during COVID, even with 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks out of the office. We just helped them redirect what their goals were. We refocused the team. And those are the things that we actually have something to do with. If that makes sense. I don't want you to listen to all of this stuff that's going on and have this feeling that it's negative. It's neither here nor there. It is what it is. The dollar is, the value of the dollar. All of those things is macroeconomics that, again, you don't have any control over. Now, if I go back to 2008 and I think about what I did in the practice during that kind of financial meltdown, well, I refocused. I said, yeah, I noticed some patients aren't accepting big treatment plans. Why? Because cash was king. They wanted to save their money and save their cash. And really, that's when I came up with the concept of compassionate finance, of which we've done now just under $1 billion in notes for patients all across. I say notes for patients and for doctors. And it's growing, still growing, because people needed help. They didn't want to part with their cash. They might want to do a down payment, but they didn't mind making monthly payments. And so all of a sudden we saw a jump in our productivity. The other times when, we lose focus, we lose direction, is because we're not really truly setting goals. We may be dreaming about setting goals. We may dream about what we want to do next year. But truthfully, are you really setting the goals? Are you doing it day to day, week to week, month to month? Does your team know? Again, when we have our team meetings, I want my team to know about overhead. I want them to know that we don't take home every penny that's collected. That money goes to payroll, building, equipment. I mean, there's a lot of things, but the team may very well think it goes all to you. You just write yourself for a check for that $100,000 a month or whatever it happens to be. And I don't mind my team being informed. When people are informed, guess what? They can make really good decisions. It's also really wonderful when you have a team that understands the business and understands why you're setting the goals. It's not like you're waving a carrot and kind of pushing a carrot down the road and keep raising the goal so that they'll never reach it. No, I want to reach it. And I want them to understand why we're reaching that goal. So when things seem tough, the old saying, the tough get going, it's what I've seen in practice over 44 years. I've seen the offices. I can promise you there will be offices this year and next year and the year after that will have their best year ever. Better than they ever dreamed. Do you know in 2008, there were practices that had their best year ever. There were practices in 2009 that had their best year ever. 2000, the .com bubble, there were people who had their best year. So why not have your best year, this year, and plan it for next year and plan it for the year after? Don't let outside influence determine what your business is going to do, what it's going to be. What's it going to be? I'm the, we're the master of our fate. We really are. And if you're an associate in a practice, you're working with patients individually, one-on-one. You're the master of your fate. If you learn more techniques, better dentistry, and you learn to communicate better, you're going to do better because people all still have to go to the dentist. So all of the negativity that surrounds you, every year in January, I look around myself and I've said this before, I'm looking, who have I surrounded myself with? Are they negative energy suckers or are they positive, great people who, I love their values. I love what they believe in. And it helps me because we're only as good as the people we surround ourselves with. And so at the beginning of every year, I separate myself from certain people if everything is energy sucking. And I want to be around more. If I find people that I meet at the club or whatever, and they just seem to be the kind of people I want to be around, I forcibly go out and say, hey, let's go to dinner. Let's, your wife, let's go. Why do I do that? Because I want to be around positive people. And there's just way too much negativity with this election coming up and all the trials and all this stuff going on. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I really don't. But what I do care is that you don't let that depress you. You don't let that take your eye. You don't let that take your eye off the ball. And, Jeff and I, Boosky, when we're running our yearly numbers, we run up on production by procedure reports. We run everything. We plan. What are we going to do next year? What days are we taking off? Everything is a planned activity. And then guess what? And he was amazed for 15 years in a row. Not only did we reach those goals, no matter what the economy was doing, we didn't just reach them, we crushed them. And we've done it every single year. So why? Because it's an intentional activity, just like your scheduling. Scheduling is an intentional activity. It's not a dart on a board somewhere saying, 3:00's open. Nope, it's intentional. And so those are the things that, hey, if you have questions, send them to me, Bruce at productivedentist.com. I'd love to answer those questions for you on the air and talk about what some of your challenges are and some of the things that you're faced with that maybe you need some help with. I'm always calling and talking to people that are phenomenal in the business world. And so why do I do that? Because I want to pick their brain. I want to know what they're doing in the face of negativity. So anyway, this is not a negative podcast. This is positive. It's positively positive. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. Thank you again for voting us #1 podcast in dentistry last year. And I look forward to our next time together.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure you subscribe. Pass it along to a friend. Give us a like on iTunes and Spotify, or drop me an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. Don't forget to check out other podcasts from the Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentistpodcast.com. Join me again next week for another episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.